Live. Welcome to this first live talk for 2022. And by the way, welcome to 2022. A brand new year, fresh beginning. Wait, actually, lockdowns, medical interventions, mandates. No, actually, it looks like the same old. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in 2022. Having said that, today we're going to talk about COVID-related fear, right? We're going to talk about COVID-related fear. And so this, for you right now, if you're dealing with strong emotions at the beginning of this year, if you're some fear, if you're noticing some stress, if you're noticing some anxiety and so on and so forth, well, you should stick around because that's what we're going to talk about with Amari. And here she is.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm just putting in the comments dealing with the title.
Yes.
Dealing with COVID-related fear.
Dealing with COVID-related fear. Yeah, and we
There we
picked
go.
fear, but I guess we could have picked, many other of the strong emotions that many of us are feeling at the beginning of this year. Most importantly, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Doing well. I'm excited to resume these talks. As a reminder, we are resuming these talks every Tuesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time, which is 6 p.m. Cairo time in Egypt right now. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of things. And today, I think Amari and I were talking, right? We're like, what shall we kickstart the year with?
Yeah.
We're gonna kickstart the year with what we ended 2021 because it looks like the same old. So shall we take? Why don't we take a nice slow deep breath before we explore here what we're gonna talk about. Invitation to myself, to you, Amari, to all of you watching us or watching this replay. Take a nice slow deep breath with your eyes open and with your eyes closed. Take a moment to check in. And you're probably here for a reason. Or maybe you're just scrolling endlessly and you just found us. And then that's the reason. That's why you're here. So, where shall we start?
Do you want to take it? We could maybe talk about how we came upon this topic and why we decided.
So, the topic again is COVID-related fear and how to deal with it / what about it, right? It's not, if I speak for myself, if I had a magic wand, a magic solution, that would be, everything would be solved right now. And so here I welcome the opportunity to discuss this. And I'm wearing two hats today. Number one, I'm wearing the hat of a mind-body practitioner, somebody who's been working in the field of stress management and trauma recovery for 10 plus years, working primarily with people who are immunodepressed, who are dealing already with a health challenge, and doing that using mind-body practices. Number two, I'm wearing the hat of also a parent. I'm a father of two. I have two kids of 11 and 13 years old. And I want to acknowledge a lot of the strong emotions that are coming up both because I'm a practitioner working in this field and I see the impact of what's going on, which we're going to discuss in a few moments. And number two, I'm also a parent and I also see the impact that it is having on my kids and on most of the kids that are in my environments. So that's what I want to start with. That's what I wanted to talk about, that COVID-related fear and its impact on the nervous system, on society, and so on and so forth. Why did you want to talk about it, Amari?
Yes, thank you for asking. So coming from, I don't know, I think 3 places. So personal experience over the holidays. I got COVID and there was a choice that I made. Am I gonna deal with fear, or am I just gonna believe that I have the strength to get through it? And so that was one, just a personal experience with COVID and how I dealt with it and how fear played a part in my pain and my recovery. And two, the second thing is, as a chronic pain coach, a lot of my clients just wake up with fear of having pain and having to deal with pain. So this plays a critical role because I always talk to my clients about daily stressors, and the pandemic and news, etc., that adds on to the stress. So it affects me, it affects my clients personally. And then three, coming from a point of view of a daughter that from a big family that has different point of views of how to deal with this pandemic, and seeing my family cope with it in different ways. I think this is a great topic to talk about because in more ways than one, I don't think the light is shined upon the fear that comes along with COVID and just trying to stay safe, etc. So yeah.
Yes. Or if you're bringing family issues in the mix, like we might but if you allow me here to piggyback on what you just mentioned around because you mentioned the news, and I felt my stomach just started to tighten just a little bit here. And so here I'd like, as speaking as a practitioner, right? When we see this endless cycle of fear mongering that is promoting a certain agenda, which I don't even know if we can talk about it, right? If we want this conversation to be able to get out there. But let's acknowledge, right, that this is sensationalism, right? Saying news or basically making more money as the news is more and more sensational and making you feel stronger and stronger emotions is not something controversial. This is how it works. And so here I want to start by acknowledging that the fear is real. I want to acknowledge that, and I want to honor it. I want to say to people who are sitting in front of the news in that state of fear, yeah, your response makes sense, right? This is an appropriate response based on the input that you're receiving. And yet, as a practitioner, my question is, just like you've mentioned earlier, you alluded to it, it is obviously important to be informed. Now, whether or not you can be properly informed by watching the news is another conversation for another time. I don't want to get political here. I want to stay in my field of expertise. My question is, what is the impact on our nervous system? What is the impact of living in that state of fear most of the time, most of the day? And let's starting a third year of that. It's been 2 years.
Wow.
And we're hearing, what are we on the 5th or the 6th wave? Some countries on the 4th booster, and so on and so forth, right? So again here the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. But let me go back to the impact on our nervous system. When we get stuck in that state of fear, in that state of stress, what happens, right? We get overwhelmed physically, mentally, emotionally. We get stuck there, right? How many people, and here I'll speak about my clients who were dealing with, like all of us, some emotional issues in the past couple of years, it's out of control. It made them unable to live their life. It made them unable to operate, unable to care for themselves, to care for their loved ones. Right. And I'm talking about clients ranging from, my youngest client is around 12 or 13 years old, right? And that breaks my heart to see what's happening to the kids. We'll come back to that in a moment. To people in their 70s, 80s, right? And so here the question is, again, the impact is tremendous, right? That the fear paradoxically is impacting our immune response, our immune system. We are destroying our primary line of defense by promoting that fear-based response, right? By promoting isolation, by promoting deprivation. We are destroying the social fabric of our societies, right? By telling people that, you know what, the way we've been operating so far for the few thousand years, by getting together, by being able to support each other, to care for each other, right? No, this is not a good idea. Just stay home and lock your doors, right?
Yeah.
Because God forbid you're gonna see somebody, and right, so and something's gonna happen. So here, just to wrap it up, I'm saying we're not designed to live in that state. And right now we're starting to see, right, the consequences of what's happening, right? The social fabric is being torn apart. People right now are falling, a lot of people, I don't mean to generalize, but a lot of people I'm talking to, and I'm including myself, you know, in that every now and then are falling apart, are done, right? They're done with it because they understand that this can be it. This can be the most appropriate response to deal with what we're dealing with right now. So this is what I want to focus on. The fear is real, and yet understanding that, you know, it takes a toll. And we need to be aware of that.
Yeah. And I want to go back to where you said fear is real, and that it also can affect our immune system. And what I want to share with you all today is that a comparison of two COVID experiences within my home. So my husband got COVID a couple months ago, and I was still working with people in person that had other health issues that were high risk. And my response when he got COVID was, okay, you're going to take the room in the living room, and I'll take you're going to take the bedroom and the living room, and I'll take the kitchen and the office. And we were moving around each other, and I didn't wear a mask in my home, but there was still separation. And we both have the same vitamins, we both had the same spiritual like morning, and we have basically the same health. We do everything the same. And his recovery took a week. Even though it was light symptoms, there was the separation, and there was also me like testing every day before I would see a client, and there was this fear. And I didn't think at the time I had a lot of fear compared to maybe my family members, etc. But looking back on it, I had a lot of fear. I created a separation in my own household. And when I got COVID during Christmas, it was a completely different experience. And my husband treated me the way that he wanted to be treated, which I really appreciate that. So we did not separate, thank God. And for the first 6 hours, I had a fever. I was feeling bad, guilty. I saw my family. So I was thinking I probably gave it to them. And I had so much guilt and fear going on in my head, so many thoughts. And the more and more thoughts that I had, the more and more my symptoms got worse. I got fever. I was breaking out in sweat. I was tender to touch. I couldn't touch my legs, my body for 6 hours. And then finally, my husband comes in the room, gives me my tea and my honey, my lemon, and my dandelion tea. Drink this. What's going on in your head? Bursts out in tears. Why are you crying? You're sick. It's fine. And I tell him about all the thoughts that are going in my head. And he's like, you can't have guilt. This is nothing that was in your control. You can't have guilt. Having guilt and feeling sad for yourself and being worried is only going to make you more sick. And then we're going to miss Christmas and New Year's. So what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I don't want to miss Christmas and New Year's. But as soon as I snapped out of those negative thoughts and the fearful thoughts that I had, I tell you, Pierre, after 6 hours, my symptoms were gone. I could touch my legs, I could walk. All I had was a minor cough, but my symptoms that were keeping me in the bed, curled up with the fearful thoughts, with the emotions and guilt and negative emotions and negative thoughts, all of those things suppress my immune system.
Exactly.
And I really think that one, having those positive thoughts and tackling the fear, and two, having connection with somebody while I'm sick, that made such a difference. And I recovered within hours compared to the same person who treated me so well that I was afraid to make my clients sick, and I separated. And it took them 7 days. And we like rate the same level of health on Vessel. Like, we're literally the same. So it just makes me wonder, and it makes sense to me from all the books that I read, and as many times as I have these talks with you and with my clients, that yes, our thoughts and our emotions do make a difference on our immune system's ability to cope and be resilient.
And what an important reminder here, right? What an important reminder that stress or will impact our nervous system, will impact our ability to heal, our primary line of defense, which is immunity, will increase inflammation. You work with people dealing with pain. I work with people dealing with pain. You know how many people, are dealing right now with increased level of pain, which is, by the way, due to stress. And just on a side note, also due to medical intervention that we cannot mention, right? But here, understand that the primary medical intervention, including boosters afterwards. I just want to mention here anecdotally that a lot of my clients were taking these boosters or reporting increased inflammation. Having said that, right?
My clients too.
So, and what does the inflammation does, right? Increased pain, right? More dysregulation in your nervous system, more dysregulation, lowered immunity, and so on. It's a vicious circle, right? And so here, the importance of remembering that if you want to be able to make an informed decision, right? How do you want to approach your sickness? How you want to approach, right, the situation you're in? If you get COVID, and if you don't have COVID, if you're one of the few that by now hasn't had COVID, let's understand that the more I'm in that state of survival, the less I'm able to think clearly. When we talked about mental, emotional, physical consequences, right, to being stuck in that state of fear, let's understand that also I may not be able to make the best decisions for myself and for my loved ones. And that's an important thing, because then what happens when people are stuck in fear, then they become so much more suggestible, right, to the one and only answer that is being provided today to deal with this situation. Right? I've been practicing hypnotherapy for 12 years right now. I have a good understanding of how it works. And here today, a lot of people are in a state of trance. And it makes sense, right? When you're, when you study emergency situation, emergency hypnosis, what happens, right? You have to be very clear when people are stuck in that state of trauma. You need clear guidelines, and this is what you need to do, 1, 2, 3. And here it's beautiful how the fear, right, is being promoted, because then you're so much more likely, so much less likely to actually question, right, the solutions you've provided. Am I making sense here?
You make total sense. Totally.
So
yeah.
And I want to piggyback also on something else, because you've mentioned family, and that leads me here to my second point, which is, for me, what is the impact of that fear mongering cycle on children? And I could actually say on the most vulnerable, because when you speak of elderly people being isolated, under
Yeah.
the pretext of keeping them safe. I'll speak for myself with my grandmother after having a stroke at 95 years old, and her family not being able to visit her under the pretext of keeping her safe. The only thing I wanted to say, right, was F you, right? Because this is abuse. This is elderly abuse under the cover of health protocol and safety guidelines. So no, so I reject that, right? I reject the abuse of the elderly that right now, and thankfully my grandmother recovered. And what is she saying right now? She's saying, is this it? Is this how, what is it? Are these the last few years of my life right now in isolation with people being afraid to come and see me and visiting me and not being able to move around, to go around, to, right, to go to restaurants, to go to places. So there's abuse of elderly people going on, and there's abuse of children. Right? And so here I wish to speak as a father of two, as a parent, and I want to say here that even though children, right, are such a low risk of acquiring COVID, of any severe illness from COVID, let alone death, right? When you look at research right now, my children are more likely to get struck by lightning, right, than to actually dying from COVID. Let's understand that right now, what we're doing, the so-called safety protocol right now, are abusive. How many parents have I talked to who are telling me, well, I haven't been taking my kids to outdoors. I didn't take him to the park for months, right? I know children who didn't leave the house for 9 months.
Wow.
And I'm saying that in an attempt, to have compassion here, because I understand that the parents are doing their best here, right? And yet, do you really need a piece of research to understand that this is planting seeds for future emotional issues?
Yeah.
Right? Do you understand that when you keep your children indoors, when you tell them that if you remove your mask, you're putting others at risk, you put yourself at risk. And when you say that don't come too close to people, when we have generation of kids growing up, right, without learning emotional cues at school, let alone not being able to have slumber parties, gatherings, and so on and so forth, right? What are the consequences here? So, and there is right now more and more research showing, right, the long-term consequences on children. And here I just want to say, and I appreciate your patience and people here bearing with me. I'm angry. As a parent, I'm angry simply because right now my children, right, will be unable to attend school in person if somebody else in their class is getting sick. And my answer was like, so let me get this right. My child is healthy, has 0 symptoms, and therefore is not contagious. And you're telling me that because this other kid is sick, like my kid needs to stay home, right? And my question is the same question again, like I'm putting back my hat, practitioner and parent, which is like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I don't have a solution here, but I'd like to say that I'm sure that the solution is not more isolation and deprivation. The solution, just like you said earlier, and I want to repeat the words that you've mentioned here, is compassion, compassionate care, and community support.
Exactly.
And dare I say, and that may be a conversation for another day, also faith, right? In our own ability, right? And understanding that isn't it how it works? We get sick, our immune system gets upgraded, and then we move on. So that's the question here. Are we entitled here to never get sick? What's wrong with us? Right? Of us saying that we can, no, this is too dangerous for my children, right? This is a decision that I will make, right? Not somebody else. I'm okay. I'm informed, right? I'm able to make this decision for myself. And so here, this is a rant. This is a call to all parents here that it's okay to say no, that it's okay to say it's enough, that it is time, right, for us to understand that it's not up to the children, right, to bear the brunt of the policies. So, you know, we can, you know, do this and that. We are here to protect the children. And if we're here to protect the children, well, I'll speak for myself, I'm here to protect my children. Therefore, it is my duty and my responsibility to be able to make sure that they have a healthy childhood. And right now, society, and I'm not talking about the US or just France, or just, I'm talking about most society right now, are actually having policies that are going against that.
Yeah, definitely. And I wanted to share something, like a quick story with you guys, because I feel like in more and more conversations that I just have with people, family, friends, that are not only dealing with fear, but dealing with anger that comes from fear. And just certain circumstances, like I was talking to a client and she was so angry, which her pain levels were skyrocketing. But she was just like, you know, I think I was triggered by this lady. My mask broke. I didn't have a mask. I went to the front of the store and asked for a mask. And here comes this lady that's like, why don't you have your mask? You're endangering people. And totally yells at her. And so, and what happened was she became triggered, knowing that she was just waiting for a mask from the security guard coming and like whatnot. But what I told my client was, yeah, you can be angry with that, but to get through this and to get through life, because there are many people who are triggered, you have to understand that people are people. And we all have this automatic nervous system that tells us that is trying to make us safe and identify threats. And you never know what a person is watching, what their family beliefs might be, their strength and faith, their experience with sickness in the past, current level of health. You never know what somebody is going through and what their nervous system identifies as a threat. So for her, you not having a mask based off of all of her human experiences and her human emotions and her right to feel safe, by just subconsciously or consciously, she identified no mask, that's a threat to my life. Yeah. And that was an automatic response. And if you can understand that people are people, they have their own experiences, and they're just people that have nervous systems that are trying to keep them safe, then maybe just coming into when you conversate with other people that might have different views, just identify that this is a person. This is a normal exchange. This is a person that's trying to feel safe. This is a person that has a right to their own opinion. And that opinion doesn't have to affect me, because I truly know who I am. I know my intent. I know my faith. I know I know my values. And hopefully that person's interaction with you won't feel like a threat to your nervous system, being able to think that way. And the more and more that we can do these things and think this way, the more and more we can reclaim some safety just being in our own skin right now. So yeah, just wanted to share that with you guys.
I appreciate that. Just have one caveat here, which is it really a normal conversation? And it feels like a normal conversation at the beginning of 2021.
It's become common, not normal.
It has become common, and yet it's not normal. And that's what I'd like for us to remember, so we can awaken a little bit out of that state of mass hypnosis here, right? Because this is not a normal conversation. I think we have come to a place where I expect other people to do everything I want so that I can live the life I want.
Yeah.
I spoke of entitlement earlier, right? And we need to be careful here, because again, if I think people are entitled to their own response, they're not entitled to telling everybody else what to do. Right. At least this is here my stance. Yeah. 2 years into it, having looked at the research, right, and saying and I'm saying that because I picked a fight, right? Like a couple of weeks ago of somebody who said, hey, your mask is here, it's not here. And then we went into a conversation, right? A long conversation that can be a conversation for another day. But basically here I'm saying, and I want to go back to that anger that you spoke of. My anger was justified and warranted.
Yeah.
Who is this person to tell me what I should be or should not be doing? To tell me what's best for them, or what's best for me, or what's... No, thank you. I'm an informed adult. I make my own decision. And so in that moment, right, that was an awkward and interesting moment. And yet I just want to say that my anger was warranted. And I want to say to all the people who are just being shy about it right now, who are saying, I'm just going to take it, quote unquote, because I don't want to make a fuss, that this takes a toll on you as well. Because every time you silence yourself, and it's not just true during COVID, but that's particularly true during COVID, and increasingly true, right, given the amount of silencing and canceling that's going on right now, right?
Yeah.
Of alternative voices who are saying, maybe we should try something else because clearly what we're doing is not working.
Yeah.
Understand that your anger is warranted. The purpose of anger is what? To promote action.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying here that from this point forward, I wish I am done, right, pushing things down so I can not make people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it is okay to speak my truth. It is okay to speak your truth, providing that it's the truth, obviously, that is informed, right? And that is compassionate, right? That shouldn't be reactionary, right?
Yeah, and I get that. I totally get that.
But from this point forward that you understand, then I'm saying it's time to speak up. And I think
Absolutely.
this is what we're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, and in that situation, speak your truth. But holding on to it the week later until you talk to me and it's still making you angry, like that's what I'm saying is like expressing emotions and expressing your point of view is always going to be better than the build-up. But holding on to it days and weeks after, just identify people as people, and don't let that become another stressor onto your life, into your pain experience, you know? So absolutely what you're saying, let it, like, express yourself, absolutely, and align yourself with your values and what you think. That's totally fine. And when people challenge it, express it, but don't hold on to the experience a week later and have built up emotion about the situation. You already released it, you know? And then you just identify people as people. Right. Whatever. Never gonna see that person again. Glad I said it. Another informed person.
Yeah. Right, yeah. And to the next person, because that's an ongoing situation. And I also want to acknowledge that, both for myself and for anybody else who are oftentimes finding themselves frustrated. And yet, thank you for mentioning that word of release, because that's the starting point. If we're holding on to it, then we won't be able to reclaim that state of safety, which is a state that's optimal for us to rest, to heal, to fend off infections, right? And so on and so forth. And so here, let's understand that once we've given ourselves the opportunity and the permission to speak up, to release, to complete that nervous system cycle activation, that stress activation that rose and then eventually was released, then ask yourself, right? In closing, for me, what I want to say is how do I reclaim safety, right? Yeah. How can I reclaim safety? Because this is not an intellectual process here. And you can say to yourself, I'm safe, I'm okay, it's great, everything is okay until it turns blue. That's not going to change anything unless your body and your nervous system agrees with it. So the question is really, when do you feel the safest? What are situations in your life when, yes, I'm able to take a breath, I'm able to bring this, to bring that guard down, right? And that's one option for you to be able to recreate these spaces. Another option, which might be easier here, which is something I often do in my classes is to invite people to maybe think about a soothing gesture, a calming, soothing, safe gesture. Engage your body. Stop trying to convince yourself that everything is okay. Everything is not, right? Like life is complicated today, and it's okay. Your stress is, you know, is normal, and yet you don't want to get stuck in there. So how can you provide or do for a few moments a gentle touch, right? Gentle, soothing touch. Some people will place a hand on their heart. Some people will start to rock, right? I don't remember if you've been in some of the classes where I've done some of these exercises. What a beautiful moment when the energy will shift because everybody's just maybe starting to hum, starting to rock, starting to stroke, starting to hug themselves. And this doesn't have to take long. So this is my invitation here, right? And this is not a magic wand. This is not a magic technique. And yet understand that this is one way for us to come back to the body and say, hey, right here, right now, I'm okay. And maybe in an hour, it might be different, but right here, right now, I'm okay.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Definitely.
Any last words?
Yeah, shall we say where the audience can find us? Anybody watching the replay, watching online right now?
Absolutely. Right. So find us once again here on the Healing Studio online. Just scroll down and you'll find all the different conversations we've had with Mary on a variety of topics, as well as the Healing Studio Online YouTube channel. Would you like to share
And thank you, Pierre. You can find me on Body and Moral Wellness. I'm a chronic pain coach. I have plenty of content on pain management and emotional release, and you'll see all of our talks here on a couple of reels on my page as well. Want to let you guys know that I have a free chronic pain community group that starts actually tonight at 7 p.m. It's on Zoom. It's available to anyone who joins. You can click the link in my bio, Body and More Wellness. You'll see community gathering. Just click there. You can sign up. Totally easy and for free. Can't wait to see you guys.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mary. Have a blessed day, a blessed night. Take care, everybody.
You
See you
too.
next time.
Bye.
Bye.